Well, good that everyone is here. Of course, for the show every Wednesday live, and thanks for everyone for reviewing on Spotify as well if you're listening there, because we also post it everywhere on every podcast service. And yeah, every week we just talk about the biggest news or what we've been playing. And I think to segue into that, like we
Oh,
both put out our review that you
yes.
can watch on our main channels. And I haven't watched it yet. I saw the title. It's a mixed bag.
Yes. Avatar
Um,
Frontiers of Pandora is a mixed bag. I I will we'll both share our thoughts. I mean, I do want to give you a shout out. You predicted exactly the Metacritic score on launch day. Jor said 74 and it's at a 74.
yeah,
I think I said I was like I'll be optimistic 77
yeah,
or like
yeah,
76.
yeah.
But it's it's the game is I think I said in my review I put it at a C. It's just fine. It's good. Like especially if you're a fan of Avatar, I think you'll have a great time
Oh
with
yeah,
it. But there is a lot of clunk. There's a lot of things that I don't think work very well together. Things that they designed that were supposed to interweave together, such as foraging, hunting, crafting, and then looting, and they just don't really click together that well. Combat and weapon variety is really minimal. Enemy variety is really minimal. There's a lot of weird clunk with it, but there is also a lot of good. And there's a lot of things that I've been really impressed with, such as the density of the world, the forests, the level of detail and models of plants and stuff, and interactivity is wild. It really is the next generation Ubisoft game we were promised. The biggest pet peeve I have with it is that they have constant fade to blacks, which is a pet peeve of mine, narratively speaking. But overall, like, I think the game is it's good enough, and frankly, it's better than I was expecting it to be. What are your
Okay.
thoughts?
Yeah. I'm on one hand pleasantly surprised by some elements, but it is also what I kind of expected, and it's mostly that old school, yeah, sort of still PS4 style open world game from that generation, but put into a very nice Avatar, yeah, universe wrapping. Like you said, it looks amazing. It's the most beautiful Ubisoft world ever. You start out in this dense forest, and you cannot see anything because there are a ton of trees, leaves. You can interact with the plants as well for platforming and stuff, so that's really cool. But then you move to the second region, and suddenly it's more like a way open plains area where you can ride like a horse type mount, the dire horse, and then it just feels like a completely different region. So it's pretty cool that you move through this version of Pandora, or this part of Pandora that we haven't seen before. And I think that's really well done. I liked the parts of the story where you meet these new clans. So there are 3 different clans in the game, and it's interesting to. I think they always did a great job with that with the movies as well. That the world building is really strong, and I think they did a great job with showing what these clans were kind of about, how they were living, what their kind of thing is, and also what their struggle is with the RDA. So the first clan you go to, they, for example, are kind of tired of war because they just lost a very important person. So you try to kind of convince them to, still that it's still worth it to fight the RDA because it will only get worse if we don't do anything. And then the other tribe is way more war hungry, so they will, be more at the forefront. So it's kind of cool. And those parts are great, but my kind of critique with the story was, no surprise, it's kind of forgettable, but that's kind of what you get with Avatar. Like it's the old white guy who's like the main villain, and it's like your most typical guy. They don't even try with this guy. And I mean, maybe that's just part of the franchise at this point, because I know like the I can still like see the villains from the movies, but I don't know what their deal was. Like, I kind of forgot about them, and I think that will happen the same with this game.
Yeah.
But I do like some of the key characters from these Navi clans that you meet. But my kind of critique was, sorry, that you don't really spend a lot of time with them. So I kind of was getting attached to some of them, and then you already hear, oh, it's time to move on to the next clan, and then you don't really see these characters again. And I wish they would like go to your home base, or you would have like extra missions with them to get to know them better, maybe romance options. I think that would have been really cool, but they don't do that sort of stuff. So it's kind of like a really short TV episode, and then you move on to the next thing, and that kind of sucks. And I'm really curious if you noticed this, but I also said that I think the main campaign is very lonely. And what I mean by that is that it's really about, it's kind of a typical story, right? So you are abducted by the RDA at the start of the game, you break free, and you're like, you kind of want revenge, you want them to stop hurting the world, Pandora. So you go out and try to convince the other clans to join forces and fight the RDA together. So it's, of course, a story we've seen many times. But the problem with this game is, for me, that even though it's about this huge army of Na'vi going up against the RDA, it still feels like you're kind of doing everything alone. Because I don't think there's combat AI for the other Na'vi in the world. I've never seen them fight. You have cutscenes where it's like a Benji doing like a cool trick and taking out the helicopter, but then the cutscene is over, like you said, fade to black, and you're all alone again. And it's like, okay, but wasn't I supposed to infiltrate this base with this huge army that is like waiting for me over there? And they're like, you go scout ahead, we come later. And then you're stuck in this very boring looking gray RDA base, and you hear via the radio, yeah, we have this amazing fight, it's crazy out here. And you're like, okay, but I can't see it. And then you kind of see the result of that fight instead of being in that cool sort of big scale battle. So it's really weird that there's no moment where you're hunting with another Na'vi. It's really like, yeah, you go do it. I'm gonna, like, there's one side mission where it's like, oh, we really should take out the RDA. I'm gonna wait for you at this site close by. We're gonna take them on. And then you're there, and then this Na'vi's like, oh, I don't want to be surrounded by the metal of the RDA, so you go. And if you like know this, then you really see that they're riding around the fact that the Na'vi just cannot fight. So it's like a really strange sort of system.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was weird that, like, trying to avoid spoilers, there's a handful of characters that they kind of established really, really early on that I thought they were going to pair you with for a lot of gameplay encounters, and like Jor mentioned, the like combat encounters and stuff, kind of like you would see in an Uncharted game or something like that, where you have a companion that you're completing puzzles with and your combat encounters with. Maybe you point them, hey, go turn that valve open, and then I'll sneak through this gate, something like that. And those sequences are great in terms of gameplay and narrative design together, because they make the NPC useful, and then there's dialogue that can happen during that. But then there's also a cool bonding that happens on the gameplay side, where the player is bonding with this NPC through gameplay and through activities and interaction. It's something that like Naughty Dog really has done very, very well. That in a lot of ways, like maybe Resident Evil 4 kind of started way back when.
All the Sony games are doing it now. Like every game does it now, and and in the Sony games it gets even too far where they will like shout out the puzzle before you even get to the location. So it's like, oh, you should do this and do this. And you're like, yeah, but can I like think for one moment? Yeah, they did dial it down in Spider-Man, which is nice. But yeah, like you said, yeah, it's a big part of those games.
Yeah, and it's just, it is surprising that it's just not really here. It's you're right. I think phrasing it as lonely is perhaps the best way to do it, because it is just like you are tasked with tying all of this stuff together, bringing these people and tribes together, and then going and scouting and clearing outposts and hunting and foraging and doing all this stuff, but it's always alone. And you might have a little cutscene, and I think that, again, fade to blacks kind of harm this, because it's not like you walk up to a character and then there's a seamless transition into dialogue and a cutscene like in Cyberpunk, where you feel like you're just part of the world. There's always a fade to black, and then a fades black in, and then it's a scripted, choreographed sequence, fade to black, and then you're back in the game. And it just makes you feel like every time you're doing anything narrative, you're being transported somewhere else to do something, and then you're brought back to the game itself, and it's just really jarring. So I agree. I think that's a a thing. I mean, what did you think in terms of the core gameplay? Did you think that the game is actually fun? Do you think the ideas work well together? What did you feel?
Yeah, I think the fun part and the ideas work well together. For me, we're kind of separate because I personally really liked the gameplay overall, but I think it's kind of it's not. I think what I think it's really interesting to look at this game and Hogwarts Legacy, for example, because Hogwarts Legacy, of course, another major open world game for like a huge audience. Like I think a lot of people that like Avatar maybe never played an open world Ubisoft game, but now might be interested in this. And I think Hogwarts Legacy did a great job of still having the sort of more challenging stuff. Sure, it was more to the easy side, but yeah, they wanted to make sure that everyone could play this. And I know a lot of people that rarely play games that enjoyed Hogwarts Legacy. And with this game, if people that are rarely picking up a controller to play a game, I think they're going to struggle big time because this game is the most challenging Ubisoft open world game I've ever played. And I've played, I think, almost all of them. And it's kind of crazy for like a licensed sort of game where like I think you said it as well during our previous discussion last week, that there are like difficulty spikes, and it's mostly because there are these missions where you're not fighting at all, so you're hunting like a creature that is just like chilling there, so they won't hurt you. There are platforming missions where you just have to get to the top of like a mountain, or where you have to like infiltrate an abandoned RDA facility. So these are like way more low key, and there are more puzzles there, so there's almost no fighting. But there are also these traditional, very Ubisoft-like outpost takeovers, and they are crazy. Like the moment you are spotted and the whole camp goes after you, they will call in reinforcements as well. So a big plane comes in, drops even more of these mech suits. You're almost always going to die unless you're like really know what you're doing. So I was really surprised by how unforgiving it was. I even tried hard as well, and then even like the regular soldiers just have to point the gun at you for 2 seconds and you're out.
Yeah.
And I think that but I actually liked it. So I really like the fact that suddenly I had to really think of my strategy for taking out these outposts. Like in a Far Cry 6, for example, it was very easy. I'm gonna get a sniper or like a sort of semi-auto assault rifle, put a silencer on it and a nice scope. Boom, boom, boom. Easy, right? But in Avatar, you can't really do that because you cannot one-hit kill these mech suits. So I was like thinking, okay, I'm going to take out the soldiers first. They have like way better sight, so I'm going to do that. The mech suits are slower, so I can outsmart them. And it gets harder over time with like more enemies that are introduced. And I thought it was really cool, but I would still struggle for like 1 hour at a base because I would just like drop and one wrong move and you're dead. And for me, I'm like, whoa, there's an actual challenge here. I think that's kind of cool. But I can really see people that look at the TV commercial that will probably air and be like, whoa, I want to like fly an Ikran. And then they join this game and they're like, how the hell am I supposed to take out this mech suit when my gun deals 0 damage? Because that is, I think, where the sort of idea part that you mentioned comes in. This gear score system that they have in place, where every mission has a recommended level, it hurts the overall game because if you don't upgrade your shotgun, for example, so you start with one shotgun, and then if you don't find like a new one with like a higher rarity and like a higher damage score, you will not one-shot kill soldiers anymore, or you will simply deal no damage.
Yeah.
And I think that's really hurting the overall. It's already challenging, and then on top of that, they have this sort of, it's not like, I don't think you will understand why is this shotgun that looks the exact same, like for random people, right, that rarely play games. Why am I not hitting anything? While a few missions back, I could still kill all these enemies. So I think the whole gear score system is really weird.
Yeah, there's a lot of just weird things involved with it. For one, I think the UI is overly simple and is not very easy to interpret. Eventually get the hang of it, but the UI for me felt very outdated. And when you're speaking about difficulty, one of the things, yes, combat goes from like a walk in the park in some cases to just insanely difficult the next. But there's also a strange difficulty and learning curve, and I'd like to hear if you experience this too, with just simply exploring and the objectives. Like the way that they task the player with finding certain areas to go to, or hey, go collect this item here so that we can craft this thing we need. It's very different than a lot of people will be used to from typical Ubisoft games, because it leans much more into the sort of I forget what they call it. It's like the adventure mode or exploration mode or
Yeah, you
something.
have guided and exploration mode.
Yeah, it's like exploration versus guided. They lean much more this time into exploration versus guided, which is basically where they'll tell you, go to this area of the map at this time of day and look next to the creek, and that's where you can find this thing that you need to forage. And I think a lot of people used to Ubisoft games will be used to just, oh, it should give me an objective marker and I'll go there and I'll collect the thing. Easy. But it's much more involved this time around, which I personally liked once I got into it. But because it helps you get more immersed in the world and you start to learn it better, and you realize like, oh, these things are placed next to the waterways. That's where they grow. And it's in this type of whatever, not bayou, but climate and sub area. And so there's a learning curve to it. But once I got used to it, I actually really, really liked it. Did you feel that as well?
I think I never really. So you have like the guided mode, but like you said, it's still not that icon that you see and can just go to. It will, if you use your Navi senses, like show you this like blue glow.
Yeah, it's like a glowing
can
orb
just go.
thing.
Yeah. And the exploration is just the same, but without the glow, because you will always have the sort of description of it. I don't know. I'm just not really looking for that type of experience, and I also feel that for me, the world is so big, and especially the 3 regions look very similar inside those regions. That's just very hard, and for me, it would be like, okay, I'm not gonna spend 20 minutes finding this thing and then hoping that it's the right thing, because there's also the crafting system and the cooking system, and for that you have to get ingredients, and the only way to do that is through this similar system but without the glow. So for that you do have to look everywhere in the world, and I tried that a bit, and it's like, yeah, they grow under wind bend trees or whatever, and I was like, I think this is one of those, and then it wasn't there. So for me, I'm just not looking for that type of downtime experience. I just want to move on to the next thing. So
well, and I think that crafting and cooking part is really important for everybody at home to understand. When I did that interview with Drew Reckner, and Drew Reckner, by his own description, he said, if it has to do with gameplay in Avatar Frontiers of Pandora, I'm the guy. So he's the associate game director. He's the guy that heads up all of those systems. And when I asked him, what is the system here that you feel people are sleeping on, that you feel ties the game together and makes it just sing? Like, what is that system? Is it the combat? Is it exploration? What is it? And he said the cooking system. And I understand why he said it, because in theory, if you enjoy the cooking system so much and crafting these meals that give you buffs to combat, which makes it easier and better, then you're going to go and forage and explore and hunt. And so you're going to engage with all this other stuff in order to get the benefit of the cooking system, which benefits combat and exploration in turn. And it's this big loop of feedback, which is really good. So I can understand why he thought that, but I don't think it works, because the crafting system and the cooking system, the reward for doing it is always, I don't know how to exactly phrase it other than being like, it's just not tangible. Like in Breath of the Wild, you craft a meal and it's like, okay, now you have cold resistance, and you can go to that snowy area in the tutorial, like Great Plateau in Breath of the Wild, that you couldn't go to before. So you crafted a meal and it opens up a world of possibilities, just a single meal. But in Pandora, there's nothing like that. It's like, oh, for 5 minutes, you're going to move faster when you're crouched. And for me, that's just not that interesting or compelling, because like you said, it's a big process to go and hunt and find these items and roots and fruit and meat and things to craft these really nice meals with big benefits. And when the payoff is like a 10-minute buff to something that you're probably not going to notice, it's just not that intriguing and not that worthwhile for the player to spend 30 minutes trying to make it happen.
Yeah, and you don't know when you start doing it if you will be spending 30 minutes or maybe longer, because again, it's like there's no direct way. And I see someone here in the chat, Seaport Hero, saying, "Sounds like your one's linear games." But what I like, I love open world games mostly because I like to go somewhere and then find something I didn't know that was there, or having multiple ways to approach a situation. But if I want to go somewhere, if I have like a certain goal, then I think it's nice to kind of know at least more of a direction. And for me, because they say it's in this region and you have to look for these things. And then you look at the map, and if you zoom out, you have like 3 names. If you then zoom in a bit, there are more names. But the region that is noted in the sort of hunting book, it doesn't always appear. So I found it, for someone who played a lot of games, like kind of hard to understand where I had to go, let alone if you are coming in as someone who likes Avatar and just want to experience the world through a new medium. Then I think good luck. Like, I think it's interesting that out of all the games that Ubisoft has, they went more quote unquote hardcore with Avatar. While I think it would have been better if maybe Far Cry had these systems. Maybe people would have liked Far Cry 6 more because it added more depth, which Far Cry 6 was kind of lacking.
There's there's not much hand holding, and some people, I think I accidentally, because we filmed the review last night when we got back from the hospital and everybody went to bed, but like I had a whole section in my notes that was basically like, for some people that are more hardcore, like Joe Raptor's saying, they're going to love Avatar because there's going to be just a world of possibilities, and it's very open-ended, and you can just run around for 5 hours and you'll be making progress and you'll be immersed and having a good time. And for those types of players, this is exactly what you're looking for. But if you're somebody that's looking for a little bit more of a video game experience and less of a simulation type of experience, it's going to feel very unguided and very clunky, because they'll tell you, like, I know exactly what Joe Raptor's talking about. Like, for me, I think it was like in the King's Forest area, there is this bayou microbiome thing in that area called blah, blah, blah falls. And if you go there at night, you can find this mushroom you need. And like, you pull open the map and there's like 3 or 4 tiers of zooming in and out. And it's on the 3rd level that you can see that label. But on the 2nd, the 1st, and the 4th, it doesn't appear with that label. So if you just happen to miss it while you're zooming out and trying to figure out where it's supposed to be, it can be really, really confusing. And I think that that's just clunkiness. I think if that had been polished up a little bit more, they probably would have play tested it and realized that and been like, okay, so we have to communicate it where it's like, okay, it's in the southern area of this broader map title. And
I think like, because I think also that the whole hardcore nature of this game, I don't think is the issue that much. I think it's cool that they're trying something like this, but I do think they could have eased people into it more, because you rarely hunt or gather or cook. I don't think you have to cook a single meal or craft a single item during the main story. So and there's not really, like, there's no reason to go cook or craft gear early in the game, because that would be a waste of time, because a high chance that you find a gear chest and then you spend an hour cooking this or like crafting this gear item, and the next gear chest you find the better one. Like, so the moment you are going to focus on cooking and gear crafting, you want to find the legendary gear, like the best gear in the game. And to find that, you have to go to a very specific spot for an item that you need. So you're skipping all the regular sort of cooking and gear gathering or like a resource gathering to immediately go to the hardest thing. And that can be kind of overwhelming, at least for me, because I was like, where do I start? And you can like ping items that you're looking for, but instead of having just an area, like, it would have been nice if they had like a circle on the map. It's somewhere around here, and then when you get there, go for it. Like, look for it. There will be some directions. That would have been, I think, nicer. Or if there was like a mission where it was like, okay, we're gonna teach you how to cook. Well, first you have to go here, and if it says this and this, you want to do this, and okay, it's during the rain, you get like a better quality plant or whatever. Go to the campfire, change the time of day, and then it will be raining. Like, there's nothing like it. So you're kind of thrown in the deep end, and then you don't know, or like you said, the reward, a 10-minute cook buff for something you have to work for 40 minutes. Not really nice.
Yeah.
So
Well,
I don't know why you would spend that time on it.
Yeah, I mean, if you compare it to other games in the open world genre, like The Witcher 3, you can spend, like, say you want to upgrade your swallow potion because you want to have higher healing output, which you need later in the game. So it heals X number of hit points versus the smaller number before, which when you started the game was enough to fill up half your health, but now that you're later on in the game, it only fills up like an eighth of it. So you want to upgrade swallow. If you need to do that, you can pin the items that you need to go find, and you figure out where they are, and then you go and find those items over the course of 20-30 minutes. You craft the upgrade to the potion, and then every time you rest, it's going to refill the potions, and you're going to benefit from that 30-40 minutes of grind that you did to improve the potion. In Avatar, you'll spend 30-40 minutes grinding to get a meal that, like Joraptor said, gives you a 5 to 10 minute buff that you may or may not notice while clearing a base or something. And that's just not, it doesn't feel worthwhile. And like I said, the game director said that he thought the cooking system was the thing that tied all of this together. And we're two individuals that have played the game and feel like what he said was like the crucial gameplay mechanic we just didn't want to engage with at all. And that's a problem.
Yeah, why was it not part of the main story then if it was crucial?
Yeah.
Like, to be honest, I used one buff that was like the 40% more damage against the RDA. That was crazy. So
that helped.
There are that helped a lot during the final missions. But so there are things like that. It's just like a lot of interesting ideas. I see someone Proto here as well. Do you think Ubisoft has lost touch of what makes game fun in practice, or do they just not care? I feel like they have some ideas on paper that aren't good in practice. Of course they care. Like, there are a lot of people working there that want to make the best game. But I think, and I thought that's why our discussion in the previous episode. So yeah, if you're curious, check that out. Was interesting with you talking about the event you went to and how this process for sort of a Ubisoft game, but with the full hands-on of like this Disney and the Avatar movie studio, was like a way slower sort of thing for them. So maybe they had many ideas, but then the Avatar people were like, yeah, but that's not a fruit in our universe. Or no, you cannot make this meat because this creature is hostile. So you cannot send the body to Awa, and because every time you like hunt, you do like a sort of animation, but for like one creature you do not. So there's like there are like so many things that we don't know about, and I think they probably had a ton of good ideas, but especially in a game like this, and I think they had it with like a Mario and Rabbids as well, where Nintendo is super hands-on. Like, I don't think they can really make that vision a reality. And we talked about it also before. This was a game that started even before Odyssey, I think, came out.
Like they announced that they were working on it in 2017. Presumably they were working on it well before that as well.
Yeah.
So like we're talking 7-8 years probably.
And you see that in this game. Like, you see that this was still the era where Ubisoft thought everything has to be an RPG, and it was probably too hard for them to do a full Watch Dogs Legion, where that game also had levels and all that sort of stuff that they got rid of. And for this game, they just put it in. Of course, it's also the Division studio that probably had something to do with it as well, where they were like, hey, we know systems like this, so let's put it in this game as well. So yeah, I think this game is like a very interesting case, and I do think, like, if we are at this point next year and Outlaws and Assassin's Creed Red have launched and we're still in this 74 territory, then I think we got a problem. But I think this game and Skull and Bones, they're just like hellish development. I think there have been a lot of things, and I mean, still think that what they released today and on the December 7th release date it's pretty good. Like they did a great job making an Avatar game. They set out to make like a very immersive one, and I think people that love the series in particular will love this as well. If in 2 years the new movie comes out and people will buy this for $30 with all the DLC, I think they're gonna love it because it is more Avatar. It lets you really be a Na'vi, and I think people will love it. And maybe they made just like Breakpoint a no gear score mode or whatever. We will see.
Yeah, it's a really, like I said at the top, I think it's way better than I thought it was going to be. I was braced whenever I hear a movie tie-in game. I'm like, oh, we'll see how this goes. But it's clear that they spent a lot of time and effort on it. It was a passion project for a lot of people. There was clunk involved. Like they had to do a lot of feedback with Lightstorm, and on the one hand, that's cool because it means everything in this game is considered canonical. They said at the event we went to that they want to be able to reference stuff in the game during the films and vice versa. And so they want it all to be tied together. And there are references where they just casually are like, oh, did you hear what, whatever his name is, Jake Sully did? He just went to this base, and they just casually mention it, like some of the RDA guys at the top of the game in one of the cutscenes. And it's like, oh, because it's tying in with the first game and the second game and everything that's happening here. Okay, I get it. But, you know, it just, there's a lot of pieces that don't click together as well as you would have hoped. And that's to be expected with a game that's been in development for so long, that's been through like a lot of iterative processes of cutting stuff, adding stuff back in. And so what we have is, I think, a pretty solid game that a lot of people are going to like. It's not for everybody. And if you're looking at it and it just doesn't seem interesting, that's okay. It's not meant for you.
Yeah, you will not miss anything. You will really not miss anything. But if you're looking for a new game to sink a ton of hours into and you like Avatar, I think this is a good get. But I think it's the safest to just wait for a discount, because it will probably go on sale at one point. And I think for like $30, $40, it's a pretty good get.
Isn't it also on Ubisoft Play or Uplay?
Oh yeah. Plus.
Ubisoft Plus.
Yeah, but that's only on PC and Xbox. So if you got one of those, you can.
I think that's
just
like $15. Yeah, something like that. So if you're,
I mean, you can easily finish it in a month. I mean, we finished it in a week. So
yeah, like I think you'll be okay. But I mean, so there's that. Avatar happened. Shifting gears. GTA 6.
Oh,
what do you think about that? What do you think about Dem Apples? Well, actually, let me just ask you first. How did you watch it? Did you watch it right as it leaked? Like, paint the picture.
Yeah, I was like working on something for my house because, as people who've been listening to the podcast know, I used to live together with my ex now, and now I kind of have the house for myself. So I'm kind of making it kind of my own. So I had this cool idea where I would like to, I'm just gonna say it. I'm curious what you think of it, but it's like when people, when you have people over and they go to the toilet, I want to have like a wall where it's like TV shows you should watch, and then like some pictures of the TV shows I like. So
that's kind of cool.
They have to look at it, because that's always a thing I think with like talking to someone and talking about TV shows. Like, yeah, I like this, I like this, I like this. It kind of mostly talking like sideways, like,
yeah, you're just kind of like smiling and nodding, like, sure, whatever.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, you like that. Oh, you like that. And there are some things that you might like connect on anyways. But I thought like, now they have to look at the pics that I had. So I was like looking at that, and then I had like my TweetDeck open, and I was, what? Did it leak? And that was like 45 minutes ago. So I could not watch like the Twitter account that leaked it. That was like, I think, gone in like a few minutes. Pretty crazy. But there were already, like, I just typed in the search bar GTA 6 trailer, and there were a lot of mirrors, like everyone was posting it. But that was like with the sort of Bitcoin ads through the screen.
So crazy.
And I was like, yeah, this looks kind of real. Damn, I can't see anything because this Bitcoin ad is blocking my view. And then I was like, okay, yeah, that sucks. Like, what are they going to do? TikTok will probably be full of it, like, because I don't think they have like a really good sort of detection system on that platform yet. But and then they were like, our trailer has leaked. Go watch the real thing, Rockstar tweeted. And I was like, damn, I wanted to do a live reaction.
It's real. Yeah. No, I was sitting in a hospital room, like we were waiting for the nurses to come in and check on Ori. So like we're sitting in a dark room by ourselves, just like on our phones, trying to kill time. And then Jacob texted me and was like, they dropped the trailer early. I was like, wait, what? What? No way. Because initially I didn't realize it had leaked. So I thought they were just like, everybody's planning on doing a live reaction tomorrow morning. Screw you guys. Here it is early. Like I thought they were just trolling us, but no, it was a leak. And unfortunately, like to be fair to Rockstar devs, what sucks about this is like they were planning like apparently an office party at all of their studios. They were all going to come together and watch the trailer go live. Because my understanding is that a lot of these developers hadn't seen the trailer yet because it was so locked down. They were working on the game in their own little spot, but the trailer itself was not like sent out through a company email or anything. Of course not. So for a lot of them, they were ready to see this thing they've been working on for years in its like polished form. And then it leaks and they have to watch it on Twitter or, you know, through something else. So for them, it sucked, which is unfortunate. But I mean, once we actually got to watching it, what were your thoughts?
For one, like the music choice, brilliant. I thought it was really, really cool choice. Also, like looking at the sort of story, like the two characters, Bonnie and Clyde, inspired, of course, and yeah, how the song is really about like, yeah, being connected to someone. So I thought that was already great, and it was really the kind of trailer that I expected. Like the density of the world, like the amount of people on the street, on the beach, and all having their own unique animations, their own distinct look. I was like really blown away by that in particular. And there were some moments, especially with Deanna, I think her name is, right? The
Lucia.
Lucia. Deanna's Wonder Woman. I've been making too many videos on those leaks. No, but Lucia, like I kind of got like Far Cry vibes from it, or so. The sort of her animations, and also just the sort of ending where they would like go into this convenience store and like kind of rob it. I'm kind of getting like Ubisoft vibes from it in a way.
Really?
Yeah.
You're triggering a lot of people right now. I'm just gonna.
I know, but it's like I don't know. I've just like it's kind of like the Danny from Far Cry 6, the Danny Rojas, and the I'm not sure what.
Yeah,
the
she
other
does
guy
kind
was
of
called.
look a little bit like Danny. Yeah.
Yeah, and like of course, I mean, like the trailer was fantastic. It was what I expected. I did not expect 2025.
Yeah.
I did not expect that. They're getting ahead of it because it was probably gonna get delayed. And I think 2025 is interesting because we of course had that sort of news from Take-Two that even like a few weeks ago, so they of course announced that the trailer would be happening in early December, in like mid-November or something. So, or early November, like when that Take-Two investor call was happening. And that's why they reaffirmed saying that we are expecting almost $8 billion in revenue between March or April 2024 and March 2025. And now that GTA is in 2025, it has to be in that early window then. And I don't see a lot of people talk about that. So I thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
How are they else going to make 2.5 billion extra dollars?
Right. When I saw that, the 2025 date, like we all were kind of expecting holiday 24. We were all kind of thinking, okay, October. That makes sense. It's within that window of April to March. Okay, like probably October, November, aim for the holiday season. That works. But when the trailer dropped and leaked and this date came, I'll put this up on screen for everybody watching the show. Pretty much the moment that trailer leaked and the date came, you see the share price plummeted. And you would think like, oh, it's the magnum opus. GTA 6 is dropping. But you see a plummet in the share price. Now, for one, as I always say, investors already priced in GTA 6. They already have priced $156.99 with the future performance of GTA 6. So it's not like they were totally unaware that GTA 6 was real and then it was announced and the stock
Still,
price reacts.
to be devil's advocate, if you look at like the last few months where the price was at, it is like $20 more since they were talking about the GTA trailer.
Yeah,
so,
and I think that I think the affirmation of expected revenues climbing and also the crazy amount of attention that the trailers have gotten and the announcements, I think that has instilled more confidence in the investor base that it will actually perform to those expected levels.
It already has more views than the GTA 5 reveal trailer,
which is
from 12
hilarious.
years ago.
Yeah. In like a day and a half, it's more. But like with this, it was interesting because they've recovered largely. Like it doesn't really matter. But the reason this drop happened, according to all the financial journals and stuff that I read, the reason this drop occurs at 5:30, right as the trailer leaks, is because of that 2025 date. Because the stock price was priced assuming the game was going to come out probably holiday of 24, and those extra billions would be generated in that fiscal year. And a lot of investors are assuming that this is probably their way of expecting the game to come out probably holiday 25, potentially delayed past that fiscal year, which isn't that big of a deal, but it does affect the stock price, not hugely, but it does mean that if they were expecting $3 billion next year, they have to wait another year for it, which is, of course, frustrating for investors. But I thought that was really interesting that you see this huge drop, and by the time a few hours had passed, it was largely recovered and investors kind of chilled out. But this is something that does happen.
I think that for sure is interesting. I think then their next investor call is going to be fascinating because but I always listen to them, and Rockstar stuff, they never say anything. But it will be interesting to say if they still say with the 2025 date, yeah, we're gonna get that 8 billion. Then it must be early. Then it must be that early 2025 window, and that it was planned for the holiday, and that they already internally delayed it. I saw the did you see that GTA Online shirt that seemingly teased the date? And I was like, think for 1 second, please, because so they had the date teased for the reveal, which was fascinating. It's pretty interesting. And then there was like another date, and it was like April 1st, 2025. April 1st is the first day of their next financial year. They will never put the game out on April 1st if they could also have it like launch even 1 day earlier, and then they would still be able to rake in all the pre-order money from GTA 6 in their previous financial year and beef that up. So April 1st is never going to happen.
Yeah,
so
it just wouldn't make sense. Yeah. No, and you can see this is what they're talking about when they talk about the shirt leaking the dates. It's literally a shirt surrounded by an ocean of numbers, and they've just circled the one that has like 25 in it because they said 2025. But there's also other numbers in here that you could have looked at, like this, like there's 23, there's 52. Like, it's just circling a number and then being like, oh, look. And if you looked at this as 04 April, 01 first, 2025, that's when the game's launching. But like Joe Raptor said, just no part of that would make sense. It just wouldn't.
No. There was one person in the GTA forum that actually said this for fun, like, oh, this shirt probably means that they're gonna reveal GTA 6 on December 5th, and he was right. That is so funny.
That is actually really
that
cool.
is pretty crazy. But I don't think the person that was typing it believed it. But yeah, it turned out to be correct. But so yeah, I found that interesting. Like to stick with that for 1 second, like what else do they have? Even Borderlands 4, BioShock, the new one, Judas from Ken Levine, like. I don't think that will be enough to rank in $2.5 billion in extra revenue. So
yeah, like, well, this is the question: is when they said that, the $2.5 billion in extra revenue, were they at that point still thinking holiday of 24, and then
something changed in 2 weeks or 3 weeks?
Yeah, which is possible, but it could also just be that. Maybe they're just hedging their bets because they know that every time they've announced something for the last 15 years, it ends up being delayed by like a year or two. So they might just be like, we're just gonna try to play it safe. And I'm
Yeah.
not suggesting that the executive officers at Take-Two lied to shareholders during a conference call. They were probably communicating what they thought was the best
Yeah.
information that they had at the time. But
Yeah, for
I
sure.
would just be really surprised if they dropped GTA 6 in March.
But it's
maybe
like
February.
weird that if it is like fall 2025 and they already know it now, like why announce the game now? It really, I don't think makes sense unless it is what we've also talked about where Take-Two I think is gonna lose money this year because they haven't released anything apart from the stuff they always have every year, like NBA and WWE. Or do they? No, they have the other. EA
I think
has
that is theirs.
okay. Yeah, so that's what they publish every year, and yeah, of course,
Well,
if they invest in all that other stuff, it's not gonna make them
and
a ton of money.
it might just be a way of kind of trying to reaffirm confidence within the investor base, just to be like, listen, I know we're having a rough year, but look at all this great stuff, this GTA 6 thing we have coming. It's the same exact thing that Bethesda did back in 2018 when they just like not even what the cards in their hand, they just showed the whole deck and laid it out. They're like, yeah, we have Elder Scrolls 6 coming, and then we have Starfield coming in 5 years, and then we have this coming and this, and Indiana Jones, even though you're not going to see that for half a decade. Like, they just showed everything because they needed to reaffirm that, like, look at all this stuff we have. We're not, washed up. We're working really hard.
Please buy Fallout 76 this year.
Yeah, we promise it'll be really good.
Good. No, but I agree. So I think it's interesting. Like maybe something changed. I don't know, but I do think it's worth mentioning that I think right now, early 2025 is probably what they're thinking, because if it is suddenly that they expect like 6 billion or 6.5, then okay, GTA has shifted.
And so it's not. I mean, it used to be, and I will say, like, I am still kind of thinking like 5 years ago. It used to be that everybody assumed February is where you dump games you expect to do poorly because volumes are low. At least historically they were. But in the last handful of years, we've had huge games, like some of the biggest games of the year in terms of total sales, launch in that early window, whether you look at Elden Ring or Hogwarts Legacy, or before that, what was in 2021? I guess like Last of Us 2 was in June, I think. Or July, but like there's still massive games that launch not in the holiday season. So it's because of like digital sales, because of the modern marketplace being so huge. You don't have to release your biggest games in the holiday season for it to be really successful. So it's possible GTA 6
and maybe they also have the plan because GTA Online will probably launch a few moments later after the single player campaign, I would imagine, and you will have it in a way better state in the holiday of 2025 because we probably know that it's going to be a shit show when it launches. So maybe that's another way to make sure that, I don't know. I think they want to get it out as soon as possible. They know that they can drop it any day. I think the summer will probably not be the smartest moment, but apart from that, things, are probably interesting. And I thought like, I also tweeted out, Ubisoft, after seeing the 2025 date for GTA 6, like they probably popped the one champagne bottle, I think, because Assassin's Creed Red was probably going to, they were going up against GTA 6 otherwise.
Man. Yeah.
And I mean, the game would have still done fine, but probably way less if it was launching around GTA 6. And maybe if GTA 6 was end of October 2024, then they would have to rush Red out like a few weeks before that. Otherwise, it's hard to get more people to care about that.
The further away you can get from a Rockstar game, the better. Just steer clear
for sure.
Steer clear.
But I thought that was interesting. But overall, for the game looks great. It's really like kind of crazy that it feels like the first game this generation so far, where next to the graphics, also the sort of AI and sort of like they of course are mimicking a lot of like things that happen in Florida and stuff, and it looks real. Like there are no, so you don't see that's like a weirdly animated or something. No, it just looks like legit, and I think that's really, really awesome. In the 1 minute 30 or whatever it is, like 1 minute 24 or something, they showed like every few seconds there's a new sort of thing to look at. I think it's really, really awesome. And they are kind of teasing the more indoor areas as well, with the more like stores that we can rob, which would be like a big part of the game. They tease more than just Vice City, so it's probably going to be quite a big map. And I think the sort of there are some leaks that have now kind of been confirmed looking at the trailer, where the main characters both have more distinct roles and like different gameplay benefits. So Lucia should be more like a sort of hacker person, where she has like tracker jammers and like a sort of device that can like hack luxury cars. So instead of like being able to break into every car, you now have to there are like tiers of cars that that you should be able to break into with like different tools. So it's probably going to be very similar to what we know, but like way more depth. There are going to be more tools for heist. So I think it's going to be great. And I think the more like having even a more direct sort of a connection and relationship between the two main characters, I think is going to be very, very interesting. So
yeah,
I'm all in.
I'm very interested.
It's going to be a year though before we see more.
Yeah, I think so. They've given us a little taste, and now we have to hold out. I thought it looked really good. The Rage engine is just crazy. What is your, and we talked about this on stream, I just want to know your thoughts. Do you think this launches at 30 frames for everybody? Or do you think they bring a performance mode too? Or do you think they're just like, suck it up?
For a Series S, it will probably. I think for PS5 Pro, maybe 6. Maybe that's the only 60 machine. That would be crazy. Because we know.
That's my guess. Yeah.
That would be, I think overall though, like just taking a step back, Sony and Microsoft must be like, yeah, like they have like a system seller in their hand if it's not launching on PC, which they are not saying, and it's probably not. Like, and especially the Series S, unless it's like the very obviously the worst way to play the game. That like they're probably not gonna. Sony usually has the bundle with GTA. So, but if Xbox, like if Phil Spencer goes to the Rockstar office with like a huge pile of cash, like having like a $300 bundle with a Series S and GTA 6. Oh man, that's gonna be crazy. Yeah, that would be crazy. So like a lot of people that might have, because of course like PC gaming always the better option if you have like a very beefy machine. But there is another reason now, which wasn't really there last generation, for PC gamers to really go out and buy a PlayStation or Xbox, unless you wanted to play Lost of Us Part 2 or Ghost of Tsushima or whatever. But now there's like a way more compelling reason for even PC gamers to get a console, and I think that's huge for PlayStation. But
that's why
Xbox.
It's all the more baffling that apparently Xbox is not planning a Series X Pro or anything like that.
Yeah,
they're planning like
for sure
just a cylindrical Series X, basically, but the same power and more storage. Meanwhile, PlayStation is allegedly planning a PlayStation 5 Pro, which I think is reasonable to assume is going to be the only 60 FPS way to play GTA 6. And I would guess that probably is a pretty big system seller for that.
Yeah, because if the PC players are jumping and they want the best possible, like the closest to PC experience, then they have to get that Pro console. Yeah. It's gonna be. Yeah, it's weird, and Microsoft must have known. So I'm not sure. Maybe
that's why it's such a huge miscalculation. I just don't get it.
Red Dead is 30, right? Yeah. Red Dead Redemption 2. Oh yeah, GTA 6 will 100% be 30 then.
Yeah. So I mean,
on Pro, it's also not 60.
Did they eventually add it though?
I don't think so. I don't think that if you play Red Dead Redemption 2 on PS5 right now that it's 60. I think it's still 30. But I might be wrong about that.
Oh, that would be interesting, because I mean, maybe they do just offer like a higher resolution and nothing else. They do say Wolf's Gaming Blog says a 60 FPS mode has been added to Red Dead Redemption on PS5. It's a toggle in update 1.03, accessed via the options.
No, I think people in the chat are saying that it's only 30.
Oh wait, no, this is just Red Dead
It's
Redemption.
for the old one.
That's for the PS4 port
for a
on
version
PS5.
of
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I know you're right.
Yeah, so I mean,
They might just be like, no, suck it up. It's 30. Like, screw you.
and that I think that's crazy though. Like
Wow.
for Starfield, that was this whole like conversation, and I think for GTA, no one will really care. Like they're not gonna be like, "Ooh." I think but also probably because if they have no load screens for like indoor everything, and if you have like that many people on the street, I think that already is like a better case for it. But that's gonna be fascinating if the PS5 Pro is the only one to put. I think Sony should like run to that office. Right, what do you need the PS5 Pro to be to have this game run at 60?
Yeah.
And that's gonna
That'll be a
wild.
huge selling point. I mean, but that's the
yeah.
crazy thing with Rockstar is that like they really are the kingmakers. Like if they want you to suck up to them, they can do that. And if they also are like, no, we're gonna do 30. We're just not interested. Because like Red Dead 2, if they announced that Red Dead 2 ran at 60 with like a $10 upgrade, people would buy it. I'd go buy it for the PS5. Like I'd jump on that because it's Red Dead freaking 2. But
I mean, it's crazy that it's not there yet. Like, what? Why?
That's the
Like,
thing, though. Rockstar
I
is just really weird about long-term support of their games. Like they put something out that's amazing and generation-defining, and then they just leave it. They're just like, okay, we're good. Like everybody thought originally there were plans allegedly for a GTA 5 story DLC, and those were scrapped after GTA Online started doing really well.
Yeah, but I do get that though, because then like because the GTA Online profit is way higher. So I do get that, I think, and it's easier to do. And they were probably like they I do think they had some sort of single player type or like more narrative focused content in GTA Online. And I remember the Strauss Zelnick, like the CEO of Take-Two, saying, "Yeah, like we saw a lot of people play the single player content in GTA Online, and that's of course still what they want. Like they want people to stay in that world and not go into the isolated single player mode. So that's kind of the sad reality. But I think having a PS5 box or an Xbox Series box of Red Dead Redemption 2 at a GameStop or whatever, so people when they buy a new console also get Red Dead. I mean, that's GTA still sells a few million copies every quarter. So I just don't get it. And yeah, it's weird. Maybe they really need all the resources for GTA and are like, yeah, we can miss this technical guy for like a few months to work on this update. But
you just never know. Like they can do whatever the hell they want. And frankly, like, let's be honest, even if the only way to play GTA 6 is on console and it's only 30 FPS, we're all still going to buy it, and it's probably still going to be amazing. Like, because 30 FPS does not automatically mean the game sucks. I know we've kind of gotten into that mode of thinking because we've had a lot of 30 FPS games that then end up being kind of wah-wah. But some of the, like, I would argue probably 9 out of the top 10 greatest games of all time launched at 30. Like, because that's just what was standard. And it's only very recently we got used to 60 FPS performance modes. So, I would guess 30.
I don't know. I'm like kind of two minds because the Sony games, obviously that's different because they only have to work on those consoles. But games like Horizon that look insane, Spider-Man, they have like ray tracing now with 60. So I do hope that when we move generations, we're not like making some like big jumps, which means that we are once again having to lower the frame rate. But right now that kind of seems the reality, and I think the Series S might be one of the I imagine if GTA 6 did not have to launch on the Series S. I do think that overall, I mean, we heard about it like with Baldur's Gate that they didn't even want to do an Xbox version because they could not get the split screen to work. And now they're launching a version without that for Xbox Series S. Like, I wish this generation would just be Series X and PS5 because I do think some third-party games that could really go like that they will be like kind of hammered by that system. That's, I mean, in the grand scheme of things, maybe 15 million people have versus the almost 50 million PS5s that are out there. So that's kind of sad.
I don't know. At the end of the day, it's always, I mean, the consumers will vote with their wallets, and if 60 FPS is a really big deal to consumers, then they'll support those games, and they won't support the others that only come in at 30. But I mean, at the end of the day, everything is a matter of trade-offs. If you go for 60 frames in the performance mode, you're sacrificing some graphical fidelity, and vice versa. If you sacrifice, frames for graphical fidelity on the other side, like playing Spider-Man 2, like at least the opening sequence on performance mode, yeah, it's cool, it runs at 60, but the sand effects with the upscaling technique they used looks really, really bad in my opinion. Like, it's very checkered and it just doesn't look very good, whereas on fidelity it looks amazing. And then after that section, it's fine to go on performance because you won't really notice that much of a difference. But there's always a pro and con, and it's just a matter of personal preference as to what you prefer and whether that trade-off is worth it.
Yeah, but I think the discussion is fascinating. If Xbox doesn't do a Pro console, which is currently what it looks like,
they leaked their whole
PS5
lineup
Pro.
and it wasn't there. Like, I don't think you can just quickly in a year and a half throw together a Pro version of your console.
Yeah.
And what somebody was telling me, a buddy of mine who works in software engineering, he was telling me, like, the reason Xbox doesn't, and he didn't know this for a fact, but he was telling me this is his thought, which I thought was interesting. He said, I don't think that they're doing a Pro console because the way they manufactured and designed the architecture of the Series X and S was to use the same chipset, basically, in their server farms for xCloud.
Streaming, yeah.
And so if they were to offer a Pro variant, that would be a different manufacturing process that they'd have to undertake entirely. And then that doesn't jive anymore with the server infrastructure. It would just be for this one piece of hardware that they aren't even sure would sell very well in comparison. I mean, even still, like, the Series X is getting trounced by the PlayStation 5, and it's not that big of a performance gap between those two consoles. So it just, I think a more complicated equation.
Especially right now if you still don't have a PS5 or Series console, then you're probably waiting for either a price drop or whatever, or so you're probably not running out to buy the more expensive, more powerful Xbox. So that will probably sell even less than this S and the X right now. And then you're streaming, and then you have the lower quality version. So that's not a good selling point either.
It's a PC. Well, I think that's part of what Microsoft has been playing with, is that they're like, hey, if you want a really high-end Xbox, it's called a PC, and then you can just play all of your games with the Play Anywhere program and play that way.
But not
Problem
GTA.
is, not GTA. Yeah, exactly. It's like the idea for Xbox was, I think, if it's on Xbox, it can also be played on PC, and because Microsoft owns both, they're happy either way. They don't care if you're playing on Xbox or PC, as long as you're playing through their platform. And if they're just not going to support it, that makes me question, like, okay, does Rockstar, does Xbox have some way of getting Xbox copies running through some emulation layer to get it on PC or something? I don't think Rockstar would go for that, but it makes me wonder, like, how on earth does this now vision of Xbox's Play Anywhere system actually work? I don't think it does.
No,
it just doesn't work when you have somebody like Rockstar that's just like, no.
The only possible scenario I see, and this is kind of like a joke, but it feels like paying Rockstar to not have GTA 6 run at 60 on the PS5 Pro.
I don't know how they
don't flip that switch.
Please don't start this.
I mean,
Please.
there were in the sort of the Activision Blizzard sort of court, it was like that PlayStation was arguing, if Xbox has Call of Duty, then we will not see the same performance updates or like the same sort of we cannot give them information on the next PlayStation, so Call of Duty will run less on our platform. Like that was kind of the so if PlayStation thinks that this is a possibility, then it probably happens. I would think. So but I don't think they will do that, and I do think PlayStation will likely get the deal, but we will see.
It's gonna be fascinating. Yeah, just buckle up, everybody. It's so fun. It's still just so
what
weird
if,
to
like,
me.
the PS5 Pro already has GTA on the box when you buy it at Holiday 2024? That would be so like a nice move.
Sony's
if they
like,
can
we took
already
out a second
announce,
mortgage on everything. Yeah.
if they already can announce when that console launches that it will be 60.
Dude, well, you better
even
believe
before the
they're
game is out.
PlayStation's genius with marketing this generation, and I will give them lots of credit for this. Like during the Sean Layden era, they kind of had this methodology of we'll pay for exclusivity for a year, and then if you want to play the game, you'll buy it on PlayStation. Easy. What Jim Ryan and his crew realized is that you don't really have to do that. You just have to put all of the marketing with a big PlayStation logo and frame it all as running on PlayStation. And a lot of people won't even realize it's available on Xbox and will just assume it's only PlayStation. And that's what happened with like Hogwarts Legacy. I had friends of mine that were like, I want to play Hogwarts so bad, but I only have an Xbox. Like, what are you talking about? You can play it. And they're like, what? Really? All the trailers show the PlayStation logo. And it's because they paid for those
Destiny
rights.
was the same. Destiny was the same because there was also like a PlayStation marketing deal. Yeah, it works. I mean, people like that see the TV commercial and only see PlayStation at the end or Xbox. Like, yeah, obviously you do think that.
Yeah.
Which is genius. But
Yeah,
I don't think if people then actually end up buying the console, the PlayStation, and then are like, damn, I could have bought this for Xbox as well. So it's kind of like, where does it end, right?
Yeah.
Do you really think that? So you're only kind of tricking people, but I'm not sure if it actually means that people are then jumping platform because why would they?
I think at this point it's just about sustaining the idea that all the games are on PlayStation first and foremost. And for GTA, I think it's going to be the same thing where they will probably try desperately to get those trailers that are running on console to just say, PlayStation, and then they play the trailer, and then they show the console with a little hard disk cover of GTA 6 next to it, and people will just be like, okay, so it's on PlayStation.
Oh damn, I want the faceplates with like the sort of image they had with like the palm trees and stuff.
Oh, that would actually
PlayStation
be kinda cool.
faceplates. Oh, that would be awesome.
I bet somebody's already made that on TikTok.
Yeah, for sure.
Let's be real.
Hey, we have the Game Awards. Like for people that are listening to this later, it will probably already have happened, but maybe fun to kind of quickly discuss that. Do you have any like final thoughts on it, or?
Yeah, my final thegameawards.com. My final thoughts. People have seen me on stream. We went through and I voted for each of the categories just because I wanted to get my thoughts out there. But largely, I mean, there's not really that many surprising takes. It's like, yeah, it's cool. It saved my votes. So like I voted for Baldur's Gate 3 for Game of the Year. To me, it's just, we've had an amazing year, but I think Baldur's Gate 3 is not only amazing, it was also kind of a surprise hit for a lot of people, way bigger than anybody thought it was. Whereas like Spider-Man 2, yeah, really good. Resident Evil 4, yeah, really good. But we all expected that. Same with Tears of the Kingdom. Yeah, it's amazing, just like we thought. But at least Baldur's Gate was exciting and something people didn't expect to have on the Game of the Year list.
And I feel that the tail on like Baldur's Gate has been like way longer than like a Zelda. While with Breath of the Wild, it actually... It was everything people talked about, even though there were a lot of other big games on Switch. And I think even like Nintendo reported like the sales for Tears of the Kingdom were of course insane. But I think in their like previous quarter they only sold like 1 or 2 million copies, which like a significant slowdown. So I thought that was interesting as well. And of course Baldur's Gate is still coming to Xbox, so they will have like another boost. They're still updating it with like new ending stuff. I still have to play it. I don't know when I will because I'm kind of scared for the length.
I mean, it's a commitment, but it's one of those games that once you play it and roll credits, like you're not going to be the same. And I know that's cringy and like funny to say, but like it will change your perspective on what these RPG games can do in a really good way. It's just crazy. So highly recommend it. We'll keep asking you every time we do an episode.
Yeah, and you played it on PC, right? Because
yeah. I haven't tried the console versions, but I can't imagine it's that different. My wife played a good amount with controller before swapping to mouse and keyboard. She said it was fine. It's a lot of radial wheels. You kind of get used to it, but it's definitely designed first and foremost for mouse and controller, or mouse and keyboard rather. Mouse and controller. Figure that one out. But what's your game of the year?
Of the ones that are here, I it's not there. It's not there.
What's yours? That's
Yeah,
not me.
I'm still kind of debating it.
Avatar:
Actually,
Frontiers of Pandora.
yeah, yeah. King Kong. No, no. For me, there was nothing that I think there were so many great games. And my mind jumps to two titles like the Phantom Liberty DLC
Mhm.
and just like the sort of I think just the side missions in that game. We actually did a video on the new update, and I went back to the boss fights because they changed them a bit, which kind of crazy that they are updating boss fights for side missions.
Mhm.
Like what other game takes the time to do that? So that's really cool. And then I was like going back to them, and I still remember those stories, and I thought they were really well done. And Final Fantasy 16, I think, for me was really that wow. I was like jaw dropped many times with like the boss fights. It did kind of lose me near the end, but I do think that that game has been overlooked by so many people because of things we already discussed in that podcast as well, like the 16 part. The marketing wasn't that great. While this game should be on in the same conversation as the other big PlayStation exclusives like Spider-Man, Horizon, and God of War, because the sort of budget that you see on screen, and it's like, how can they surpass this? And then an hour later, you're in a new boss fight where you're like, what the heck? I'm watching a movie, and it's like insane. So that kind of comes to mind for me. Spider-Man 2 just wasn't. I wish it was more the Ragnarok moment for me, but it wasn't really there. Still have to play Resident Evil 4. I'm just not a big horror guy, but I do know people have talked about it, and I do think because it's a bit more action focused, I should probably like it. And the same for Alan Wake 2. That's also still on the list. But now with Avatar done, and the next game being Suicide Squad, that we'll dive really into, I will probably pick at least those two games up. So it might still change if like one of those really grabs me. But for now, I think it's either Final Fantasy or Phantom Liberty.
Interesting. I mean, Phantom Liberty, I totally agree with. For me, the reason I wouldn't toss it in there is just because it is an expansion to a game that launched like 3 years ago. So to me, it feels weird. Like personally, I don't like remakes being considered for Game of the Year. It's just a personal preference. I'm like, most of the groundwork was done years and years ago. I feel like that was the time to win Game of the Year. The remake is great, but like, I love Mafia Definitive Edition. I don't think that game should win Game of the Year because it was a remake of something already done. That's just personal preference.
Yeah, no, I agree. But Final Fantasy should have been there.
Yeah, I think you could swap that in.
Or like Jedi Survivor or something.
Yeah, that's one that really is just not being talked about. Jedi Survivor.
I get it though. I kind of get it though, because the poor state, once again, they did not learn from the first game, and I think we talked about it as well. Like they improved a lot of things on paper, but still, if you really thought about the sort of rewards and it still wasn't that. It still felt more like a leaning towards a 1.5 for me than a really 2.0 in my experience.
Yeah,
I think Hogwarts Legacy should have gotten more love as well. Like, I get that it's like, it's not like a game that like is genre defining or something, but I still think the task they had to make a game based on this popular franchise that should be interesting for people that play a lot of games, people that never play games, and that everyone unanimously, I think, that gave it a shot was like, this is pretty well done. Okay, maybe the story did not do it that well, but I think the Hogwarts, like, it's one of the most interesting, I think, open worlds, especially that castle, to just explore and see what happened there. And maybe not the Game of the Year category. I'm not sure if it was like nominated for other things.
I think just specifically like adventure game, I think it should have been nominated, and music, I think is slam dunk. The fact that it's like not considered at all, I think is just laughable, frankly. Like, we're literally talking about the biggest game of the year by pretty much every metric, and you're just like ignoring it and pretending like it's not there because you don't want to juggle the hot potato that is its author. Like, I just think it's silly. I just think it's silly, but
Yeah.
um,
I by the way wanted to talk about the announcements because I don't really care about the awards, but
yeah, I mean,
that's what
honestly,
I
let's
meant
be
with the
real.
Game
That's where we
Awards.
all are. Yeah. Okay, what do you think
Because
is the big announcement?
it seems like we're getting quite a lot of new game reveals, which is kind of interesting. So we just learned that Supermassive will do a single player Dead by Daylight type game. Supermassive is of course the studio behind Until Dawn, and they of course did the brilliant. I thought it was pretty nice. The 2K game. What was it called?
Oh, hold on, I'm pulling it up. Supermassive, The Quarry.
Yeah, The Quarry. Yeah, I thought it was pretty cool.
I
thought
really
also-
liked it. People kind of roasted it, but I think Nikki and I played it through like 3 or 4 times, doing all different
nice.
options and choices. We just love these games. The original Until Dawn game came out back in 2015, and it was like one of the very first games we actually played together with our little friend group. So Supermassive is actually a studio that like me and my very close friend group and my wife, like we've been playing since we first met each other. So I hold Supermassive games very near and dear to my heart. So it's cool to hear that.
And
they're
it's
finding
cool
some
that
success.
even though I think only Until Dawn really sold really well. Maybe the Dark Pictures anthology that they also did still made a profit because you really saw the budget take a nosedive for those games.
Yeah.
I think The Quarry, I think they said 1 million players, but yeah, I don't think that game really set the world on fire. But it's cool that they still get like they can still get to make these games, because I remember also after Until Dawn they were suddenly making this stupid VR game that nobody wanted.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's kind of cool that they get to do what they are good at, and it's kind of sucks that Sony did not buy them, because now that Quantic Dream is gone with like Heavy Rain, and I kind of miss that sort of game in the Sony catalog, and Detroit was kind of cool as well. So, but yeah, cool that should be coming. Xbox is teasing important announcements. Like they are really, even if you boot up your Xbox, it's like watch the Game Awards. So they're not doing that if they have nothing to show. And last year they were absent, and a lot of people slammed them for it because it was like, did yet one of the worst years ever with no releases, and you're skipping a major event where you could like tease maybe something exciting. So now they're kind of like, they're rectifying that with like some announcements. Like the artists is that they're gonna announce the new Arcane Leon game, which should be Dishonored 3. So that could be interesting. That was of course already leaked. We know there's a new Doom game in development, year 0. This was all leaked thanks to court documents. Like Indiana Jones are gonna talk about it next year, so I'm not expecting that. I mean, we don't know what the coalition is doing. I think Fable's still far away though. Because if you look at the E3 they did, we only had like release day or like release years for Hellblade and Avowed, which was 2024, and all the other games did not have a year or whatever. So I totally think it's
far. I think we've seen some people were saying it was debunked, but I tried looking into it on stream and it wasn't really clear if it was or not. But there were allegedly, I'll save myself that way, there were allegedly like Australian ratings for some of the games Xbox is.
Oh yeah, that was fake.
That was fake.
Yeah,
okay.
That was fake.
But even despite that being fake, I still would totally expect we see Hellblade. I don't think that's unreasonable.
Yeah, I mean, Xbox wants to have, and they said during, I think, June that they were lying, that right now it was looking like they were going to hit that. Like they want to have a big first-party game every quarter, and it's kind of crazy that they don't have that, looking at the amount of teams that they have, and especially looking at some of the studios they bought in 2018, 2017 that still have not launched the game. Yeah. But I digress.
Well, I think that it's probably going to be like once they start that wheel rolling, I think we will get every quarter.
Yeah, but so far we have seen that, because Starfield was in the second quarter, was like September, or like the third one, and then Forza they had in October. So what is early next year gonna look like if they have like Hellblade for March? That would be cool.
That would be awesome.
And Avowed is then maybe summer or whatever. So I totally think something like that. So Xbox should be big. I mean, they did announce the Xbox Series X, of course, 1 year before it came out. Maybe they're gonna announce the new one. I don't think they will, but just still wanted to throw
I mean,
it
it
out there.
already leaked. They could just do a little sizzle reel or something and just be like, coming holiday.
Yeah, but I think then they would really be like, yeah, don't buy a new Xbox or don't buy an Xbox this full year because
That is
there's going to
fair.
be a better one at the
Yeah.
end. So that's kind of weird.
That's fair.
There seems to be A Tale of Two Sons remake that has been leaked. So
That could be cool.
yeah, we might see that. There have also been like, of course, rumors for Sony that they're doing a God of War DLC or like a sort of standalone game. We might see that. Spider-Man, like we know Insomniac will be there. There's going to be a big update for the game. Maybe they will talk about that. Like a Wu-Tang Clan action RPG. Did you hear about that?
I did actually hear that. That's not on my bingo list.
No. But yeah, but it seems like there are some rumblings that it might mean that there's something related to that. It's interesting. There's like a possible Blade game reveal at the Tokyo Game Show, but there was like this weird. There were like actors like with a blade and then a Ubisoft sort of motion capture suit on, and they were like, it was really strange. And then Ubisoft confirmed they were not making a Blade game. But if that was like a lie, that would have been interesting. But yeah, I'm kind of like looking at the leaks right now, but it seems to be a lot of like new games from studios we maybe not have heard of, like of veterans that left their big publisher to start their own studio, kind of something like that. I hope we get an update on Crimson Desert. That would be cool.
Yeah, that would be cool.
That's
Yeah,
probably coming next year as well. So yeah, it's gonna be interesting. But I do think that we will look at it. There will be some familiar names, but I also think there will be a lot of stuff where we're like, we could not have seen that coming, and oh, that looks interesting, but it's still like this teaser trailer for something that happens a few moments later. I hope that one of those Take-Two games will, like maybe Judas from Ken Levine that we actually saw last year, would be cool to have that again and with a release window, because that game has been in development for, or actually since Infinite. Like Infinite was the last game he made, BioShock Infinite.
Which is crazy. I mean, he's known for like, I think Infinite restarted development like 3 times or something insane like that.
Yeah.
He's
but that still came out like relatively fast after BioShock 1, because BioShock 1 was 2000.
I think 8 or 7.
7.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then Infinite was 2013. So that's still relatively fast. It's now been 10 years since Infinite. Crazy.
I mean, with all this, Game Awards is going to be really, really interesting. I'm very excited. But the other perhaps most interesting thing that's going to happen tomorrow is, just to wrap up the podcast with a huge announcement that I know everybody's going to be super stoked about. Joe Raptor's like, what the hell is he talking about? The day before, allegedly, is still launching tomorrow. But the developers put out like an apology / bragging post. It's really, really weird, where they're just like to supporters, thank you for protecting us from injustice and fakes. Like, what does that even mean? Like, they posted this before the game launches, and it's just a bunch of really random, weird things. Like, please forgive us for not doing the best marketing and teasers. We learn something new and improve ourselves every single day. Please don't accuse us of scamming. That's not true. Like, they just keep going over and over and over again. What are the odds?
They should post this after the freaking game is out, because
they actually are like going full meta. They are apologizing before the game comes out now, instead of right after, before. I don't know, man. Do you think the day before is an actual video game?
I mean, they're doing it the day before, so hey.
Yeah. I don't know, man.
I think it's an actual game, but I think it will be really, really bad. I think it will be like, everyone is like, what the heck is this? And I think it's good that it was like on the top Steam charts. Maybe it still is, because I don't think those things get removed. But I really think, I think it's nice that, the finals is now on top. That's interesting.
Oh, that's cool.
But like, I think it's really cool that, or like really good that people grew tired of it. Like, it really did show that what they did, they had such an interesting sort of thing going for them, and they really screwed it over. And even when there were like videos where it was like, oh, this doesn't look real, like some developers were like looking at this footage and were like, there's no like audio for this gun. They're using the same sort of audio for every like shot, while it should be like they really like did like a full like deep dive on why the trailer was probably super scripted. And even then people were still like, oh, I want to play this game. I had people that reach out to me like, I saw the day before, should I be excited? I was like, it's probably not a real game, but you do you. But I do think that after they dropped that Lamborghini trailer and they just kept delaying
it. Was so weird.
this sort of weird name like that someone else was taking their name, or it was such a shit show.
And they're openly like, yeah, we don't have employees, we have volunteers. Like the entire game is being developed by volunteers, like a cult.
That's gonna be great. Yeah. I mean, the fact that you have to remind me that this game is coming out tomorrow does show, I think, that it's not on people's radars anymore. And I hope it surprised people, but this really one where I'm like, no, it probably won't. It will probably be really bad.
Yeah.
It will be fun though to see videos with like glitches and stuff.
I'm buckled in. I'm ready. I'm ready to download it the moment it's ready. Return it.
I can't wait to see your video. It's what I feared, or something like that.
Yeah, it's just as bad as we thought. Or like, what have I done in the past? Yeah, I tried the day before to see if it's that bad, and then the thumbnail, yes, period.
Yes. Spoiler, yes.
Anyway, do you have any other parting thoughts before we wrap this up?
No. I think this. I think you discussed it before we started the podcast as well. This kind of probably the final busy week of the year, and then next week will kind of be a fallout after that. I'm looking forward to the Mirage New Game Plus update. That's probably coming next week, I think, because otherwise it's like too close to Christmas if they break something. Yeah. Like that's what I think happened with the Christmas event from Valhalla, where Eivor was drunk all the time. They launched it like a few days before Christmas, so they could not fix it. So they had to. We were drunk like for a full month.
Yeah, everyone was out of the
developers.
Office.
Yeah, it was. They were all like, So I do think they're gonna launch it next week probably. So that will be fun. But yeah, that's kind of it for this year, and we had a good run.
We had a good run.
We had a good run.
Here, Jacob is asking in chat, do you think the Switch 2 gets announced tomorrow?
No way, because Nintendo still has a lot of other Switch things, and they will do their own event. Like they're kind of the rock star in terms of hardware. They can publish it any day, and people will go crazy. I mean, we have rumors that it's coming out at the end of next year, so I don't think announcing it.
I think like with most of these big announcements, it's the same thing with like Bloodborne 2. People are like, oh, we're gonna see that there. I think with these huge announcements, they would leak. Like GTA 6
Probably.
leaked, and that had, I'm sure, millions and millions and millions of dollars pouring into keeping it secret, and it still leaked. So I think if like the Switch 2 is coming, we would probably have heard rumblings about it.
Yeah, and we have rumblings that it's gonna be next year. And I do think like Nintendo already announced that it's not in their current financial year. Like if they would announce it now, they're probably going to launch it in March, February, and we know, looking at their financials, that is not going to happen.
Yeah.
So they will have a very slow 2024. Like we already know about the Princess Peach game, the Donkey Kong and Mario game, and they have some other stuff. So it's really they're trying their best to not, like for the Wii U and for the other older Nintendo systems, the last year of the life cycle was dry. Like there was nothing. So they're kind of trying to not have that. But I think end of next year. I mean, it was going to be crazy if GTA 6 and the Switch 2 and Assassin's Creed Red, like that would have been a crazy holiday season, but
dude, we wouldn't sleep.
Yeah. But now Rockstar's like, no, we will be back next year.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Oh, well.
Death Stranding 2, I see people say that, that's probably going to be there, but I don't really care.
Oh yeah. If you see like, first of all, ouch. You just triggered some people. But no, I mean, I think if you see Jeff Keighley get a little teary-eyed and maybe a little emotional, it's probably because Kojima's nearby. So I would say, yeah, the odds are pretty high. We'll be able to tell, but I wouldn't be shocked at all if we get another Death Stranding trailer. I don't know when it's expected to launch. Death Stranding was what, 2019? So it's
Yeah,
about,
so the next year would be ideal, I think.
yeah, that would make
But,
sense. So maybe we see it there. I think if Kojima's gonna reveal another trailer, it would be a Jeff show. They have like a little.
Oh yeah, he was already editing and stuff, and it might be the final Game Awards before the game is out as well. So
Yeah, I think it just makes sense. They're buddies.
do
And
you think we will get the Elden Ring DLC?
Oh, yeah.
I think you wanna. Yeah, but we know it's gonna be later than expected. So
Yeah, the
it won't
producer
be out like
came
in-
out and was like hedging. He was saying it's, we still have a bit of time.
I actually, in my Game Awards video, talked about that as well, where I was like, I'm looking at the Bandai Namco financials, and there's no major bump, and they expected only like a slight increase over last year, and they have Tekken, which are gonna be pretty big. So yeah, there was no room for the DLC, so it's gonna be after March. Like it might be 3 years after Elden Ring comes out, which is crazy.
I mean,
If
maybe
they,
it's
like,
just
want to-
that epic and massive. I don't know.
Yeah, but why not do Elden Ring 2 then?
Maybe they're working on like engine overhauls or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
They might be finally trying to kick that 60 FPS limit. From
Will
their
that
engine.
still be on PS4 and Xbox One? By the way, that's kind of interesting. I'm
Probably.
not sure if they announced that. That's crazy.
I don't
But
really
yeah,
see them doing a next gen exclusive DLC like Cyberpunk. Maybe they do. Maybe that's part of the delay is that they're doing something crazy ambitious. But I would be surprised if they did that.
Yeah, but there are some rumors that there's like backend updates to Elden Ring on Steam, so that they're like updating it, that they're preparing something. So it might be that we get like Elden Ring DLC trailer, and then it's like, yeah, but right now you can already blah blah blah.
Yeah, I don't know.
Might be.
It'll be interesting. Proto says there was a leak I saw saying that they were planning 2 expansions, but they decided to merge them together, grain of salt type of thing, but maybe true. And that wouldn't surprise me just because that's exactly what happened previously with other games, so that wouldn't shock me. But anyway, thank you everybody for chilling with us.
Yes,
You all are wonderful. Much love. We will see you probably next week. Talking about Game Awards stuff and hopefully some other exciting things that have happened since then. So thank you everybody for chilling with us. Much love. You all are wonderful and we love you dearly. We'll see you in the next
Goodbye.
one. Bye-bye.